In a small town in West Virginia, there's a story. The story where a chilling local legend and a devastating real-world catastrophe are just permanently tangled together. We're going to talk about Point Pleasant's darkest chapter, a story about a monster and a disaster that truly changed everything.
46. That's the number. And really, it's the only number that truly matters in this story. 46 people, gone. They lost their lives in one single terrifying moment on a day that is forever burned into the town's memory. It happened just after 5 p.m., right at the peak of rush hour. The Silver Bridge, which was this vital artery connecting West Virginia to Ohio, just buckled. It collapsed, plunging into the icy waters of the Ohio River below. It's still the deadliest bridge collapse in the history of the United States.
But here's where it gets strange. Before that steel ever twisted and fell, a different story was unfolding in Point Pleasant. For more than a year, people in the town were reporting encounters with, well, an impossible creature. And for a lot of folks, this creature would become forever linked to the tragedy that was about to happen.
So, to really get a grip on this legend, we have to rewind the clock. We're going back 13 months before the bridge ever fell. Back to the very first encounter, the one that kicked this whole thing off.
Okay, so the date is November 15th, 1966. You've got two young couples, the Scarberrys and the Millettes. They're out driving late at night near a place the locals called the TNT Area. It was this remote, kind of creepy, abandoned munitions plant from World War II. And what they saw out there in the dark? Well, it was about to light a match to a firestorm of fear.
So as their headlights cut through the darkness, they saw it. Their witness statements later described it as a menacing figure, something standing 6, maybe 7 feet tall. Just imagine seeing something that big suddenly appear out of the pitch black on the side of the road. It was enough to cause absolute, instant panic.
But the one thing, the one detail that every witness would later agree on was the eyes. They described these two huge, red orbs that just glowed, kind of like car reflectors. People who saw it said the effect was almost hypnotic, that it just paralyzed you with fear. It was the eyes that really got to them.
So naturally, they floored it. They sped away. But this thing followed them. It just rose up into the air and started chasing their car, easily keeping up with them as they hit 100 miles an hour. And here's the most unnatural part of it all. It was flying on these giant wings that never seemed to flap. It just glided along completely silent.
The very next day, the local paper, the Point Pleasant Register, had to try and describe this encounter. And you can just see their confusion in the headline. A newspaper editor, probably riffing on the popular Batman TV show at the time, came up with a name for it. The Mothman. And just like that, a legend was born.
Now that first sighting, that wasn't just some one-off isolated incident. Oh no. It was just the beginning of 13 months of pure high strangeness that would put the entire community completely on edge.
You see, over the next year, more than 100 adults came forward to report their own sightings of this thing. And we're not just talking about anyone, we're talking credible witnesses, firefighters, contractors, respected people in the community. This wasn't some story told by a couple of scared kids anymore. It had become a full-blown, town-wide phenomenon.
And it wasn't just the Mothman sightings either. It's like they weren't happening in a vacuum. The whole town was just plagued by all sorts of other bizarre stuff. People started reporting UFOs and weird lights in the sky. There were stories of mysterious men in black showing up and warning witnesses to keep quiet. People got these strange buzzing phone calls. Even pet dogs started disappearing. You can just feel it, right? This pervasive sense of dread was just settling over the entire town.
And all of this brings us to the central question of this whole saga. What was really going on here? Was this creature some kind of supernatural omen, a harbinger of doom? Or was it something way more ordinary, just misunderstood in the dark?
By this point, Mothman had officially become what folklorists call a cryptid. You know, a creature like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, whose existence just isn't backed up by scientific evidence. It basically joined the ranks of America's most famous monsters. But the question remains, what was it? Really? The theories fall into two main camps. On one side, you've got the whole paranormal explanation, that Mothman was an alien, or maybe some kind of supernatural being, sent to warn the town about the bridge collapse that was coming. And then on the other side, you have the more skeptical take, that it was all just a simple case of mistaken identity.
So the leading skeptical theory actually points to a barred owl.
It's a pretty large owl, and it's really common in that part of West Virginia. Now, here's the key part. Its huge dark eyes produce this really dramatic crimson eye shine when a light, like a headlight, hits them. Plus, they're known for their silent flight. So the argument is that late at night, in a moment of sheer panic, it would be really easy to mistake its size and its shape for something, well, something much more terrifying.
But look, whether it was an omen or an owl, the story definitely didn't end there in 1967. The legend and the tragedy would go on to cast this long, very complicated shadow over Point Pleasant for decades to come.
Because on that horrible day, after the Silver Bridge fell and those 46 people were lost, the Mothman sightings, they just stopped. After gripping the town for 13 straight months, they just ended. And for the believers, well, that was all the proof they needed. The creature's job, whatever it was, to warn people or maybe even to cause the disaster, was done.
There's actually a term for what happened next. Folklorists call it narrative hijacking. It's basically when a sensational story, like the Mothman, gets so big, so popular, that it starts to overshadow the very real, very human tragedy that it's connected to. The focus slowly shifts away from the victims and onto the monster.
And you can literally see this divided memory if you go to Point Pleasant today. Down by the river, there's this simple, very somber plaque. It's dedicated to the 46 men, women, and children who died in that collapse. It's a quiet place, a place for remembrance.
But then, just a few blocks away, stands something completely different. A gleaming, 12-foot-tall metal statue of the Mothman, complete with these piercing, glowing red eyes. It's a massive tourist attraction. They have an annual festival there that brings in thousands of people. It's narrative hijacking, literally cast in steel.
And all of this leaves us with a final, kind of unsettling question. The tragedy, that's real history. The legend, that's powerful folklore. So when those two things collide in a town's collective memory, which story ends up being the one that gets told? The story about the lives that were actually lost, or the one about the monster that might have been watching it all happen?